Alright guys, so this is Jack Trade here. I want to talk to you about Yu-Gi-Oh! The card game now. And all the new things that are coming out. For example, the War Gods, Bujin. And I also want to talk to you about the TV series and even the movie that came out. I'm not going to go into the second or third movie, which I think there's three total. There's Yu-Gi-Oh! Uh, there's the one with Jaden, and then there's the one with 5Ds as well. But I'm only going to talk about the first one since I actually haven't seen the other two. So, that being said, this is going to be quite literally a Yu-Gi-Oh! Review. And how well does it stand up? Because I am Jack Trade, I do all of these different types of video games, card games. I do obviously I love movies, I love TV series. So this is going to be me talking about my favorite card game, which I'll get into that. My favorite mainstream card game, I should say. That being said, this is Bujin. Has anyone actually checked into them? They're an archetype of light monsters that are basically they're really good. If you read them, they bring back the whole idea of hack and slash. Like you have one monster on the field, and you just leave him there, and he constantly takes on all the opponent's monsters, or like on your turn he'll attack directly or whatever. And it does hold up from what I heard. I guess in Japan, it's doing really well in world championships and even regional qualifications and whatnot. And honestly, it does. There's cards, for example, like Bujin Mizasuchi, which is coming out not in the light pack Judgment, but it's actually going to be coming out in the newest pack, the dark pack. And I gotta say, this card is one of the only two Beast Warrior type monsters, and it does really good. I mean, it and the other one's Bujin Yamato. Yamato's got the ability, first of all, let me explain, because it's the one you'll be able to use right away, which is the one that's topping right now. Once per turn during your end phase, so, when your turn's over, you can add one Bujin monster from your deck to your hand and send one card from your opponent from your hand to the graveyard. You can only control one face of Bujin Yamato. So basically, you get this guy out on the field, and then you start collecting hand traps. For example, like there's Bujin Relic Habariki. I hope I'm saying that right. Habakiri. Sorry, I'm reading off of this sheet. And it says, during damage calculation, when a Bujin Beast Warrior type monster you control battles an opponent's monster, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard. The attack of your battling monster becomes double its original attack during the damage calculation only. So this 1800 beater becomes a 3600 beater right away, and it'll topple most of the Exceeses that are out. It'll top pretty much anything. Like it does really good, and it's a great like hand trap to have. It kind of brings back the idea of Kalut, and it'll probably get limited, just like Kalut did. If it does really well in the United States, just like Black Wings did and whatnot, I can totally see this becoming like a limited card. That being said, Mikazuchi is the one that I really like. One, he's got way cooler armor. He's got an amazing like effect, and he's got 100 more attack. So I mean, all these different type of monsters have to, in fact, be normal summoned or whatnot, but you can only have one Beast Warrior, or one Yamato and one Mikazuchi on the field. So I mean, Mikazuchi is in my opinion, the better of the two to have because it's better late game. So like, and you don't even need like Yamato. You could run triple bear or something like that. You know, like Tenkai for bear, play bear. You know, pop a card for, you know, 1-for-1 pop a card type of thing. You know. And then all of a sudden be like, oh yeah, by the way, if you destroy my bear, Mikazuchi has the ability when a Beast Warrior type. Oh, sorry, it's Bujin monster, so you do need a Bujin. But when a Beast Warrior type Bujin monster, so most likely Yamato or even another Mikazuchi, you control is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. During the end phase, if a Bujin monster was sent from your hand to the graveyard this turn, you can add one Bujin spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. You can only control one face of Bujin Mikazuchi. So basically, and this is the part I love about Mikazuchi, is first of all their relics are hand traps if I recall correctly. So you on your turn you go, I'm going to ditch, you know, for example, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, I know it's here somewhere. Bujin Relic Ikuta, I think it is. Ikuta. If you control a Bujin monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard and target one face-up attack position monster your opponent controls. Change the target to face-up defense position. No, that's not the one I'm looking for. That one is good, though. It's a good setup. You know, you just... They have a trap that you I think it's they have a trap that you mill 5 cards or something like that coming out. Is it Yada? When a Bujin Beast Warrior type monster you control. Yes, it's Yada. Bujin Relic Yada, which also comes out in the Dark Pack, I think. Let me make sure that I'm saying this right. Yes, it comes out in Shadow Specters. So these two cards come together. When a Bujin Beast Warrior type monster you control is targeted for an attack by your opponent's monster, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard. The target attacking monster negates the attack, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the target's attack. You can only use the effect of Bujin Relic Yada once per turn. Okay, so that's a good one for on your opponent's turn, which then you get to add another guy to your hand, which would be like, for example, the setup, which is, like I just said, the Ikuta, which will then you can, because they're both four stars, you can go into the 4-star Xyz, either Bujin Emperor Kagutsuchi, which comes out also in the Shadow Spectre pack, which his effect is so good. Yeah, this is the card I was talking about. When this card is Xyz summon, send the top 5 cards of your deck to the grave. So, okay, you summon him. Let's say you end up pitching 2 Ikutas and 2 of the, I believe it's Hetsuka. Yeah, Hetsuka, right? Let's say you just end up pitching these cards, for example. During either player's turn for Hekuta, when a Bujin monster you control is targeted by a card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard to negate it. So you get two graveyard, you know, monster card effects that are honestly really good, and they set up so well. And with Kakatsuchi, that's just when he's Xyz summoned. He gains 500 attack for each Bujin card sent to the graveyard this way. So if you activate like a spell or trap card that has Bujin in its name, or let's say there's some random card that has Bujin in its name, you pitch them, he gains 500. And then that being said, for each, he gains the 100 attack. This for each Bujin card sent to the graveyard to activate this effect. If a Beast Warrior type Bujin monster you control would be destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card instead of destroying one of those monsters. So Dark Hole, Torrential, Bottomless destroys and then removes. Those type of cards no longer matter, and this card will just go done. And not to mention, if you mill 5 cards with Bujin in their name, he's a 3,000 beater. Mix that with a card that doubles his attack, he's 6,000 beater without any problem. There's also, I believe it's Murakumo. Murakumo, I believe. If you control a Buddhan Beast Warrior type monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Then target one face-up monster your opponent controls to destroy that target. So that's a popper too. So if you mill that one, with the effect, that gets you that. Or Orochi, which is this one I don't really like, but it does do an amazing job. During your main phase 1, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, then target one Bujin monster you control. It can attack your opponent's life points directly, but this is the one I'm talking about. Let's say you go into Kagetsuchi on your second turn, and they run at you. You pitch the double attack, they die. Okay, so they lost it. You get the ability. Your turn. You draw. You ditch Orochi, which will then get you the ability to attack directly. So now they've run into, for whatever reason, they had a monster. They take, let's say it had 3,400 attack or something like that. They run into it. It's got 26 attack right there. You swing in, you hit them for another 3,000. Next turn, you do the same play. Done. You just killed him. That's a 3-turn play. It's really good. I don't know what to say. I mean, there's plenty of people who fall for that all the time. I mean, most likely people are gonna try to pop it right away, but it has 2 Xyz on it that even if it does, even if they do succeed in popping it, chances are you have a Mitazuchi in your hand, so if they pop it, he's a Beast Warrior. He's just gonna special summon it anyway. So now you got the 1900 beater on the field, who is probably just as hard to get. And since a monster was destroyed this turn with Buji in its name, you get another one to your hand. So you're just gonna see another Kagatsuchi. So I mean, honestly, guys, this is a really good card. And then for finally, the other card I wanted to talk to you guys about is Bujin Emperor Susanoo. Susanoo is just as good as Kagatsuchi in the idea that he has the 2,400 attack. I mean, he's got 100 less, and he can't go up to 3,000, but so that makes him infinitely less right there. But then you have to go to his effect. This card can attack every monster your opponent controls once per turn. You can detach one Xyz material from this card, add one Bujin monster from your deck to your hand, or send one Bujin monster from your deck to the graveyard. You can only control one face of Bujin Emperor Susanoo. Okay, so this card is, in my opinion, a little bit better just because you get to select what goes to the grave or what goes to your hand. Not to mention, he's allowed to attack every monster once per turn, which means you don't have to waste your first attack, which is his main attack, on a monster. You can detach a card. Not detach. You can send Orochi to the graveyard to make it so that he can attack directly. Swing in, attack your opponent directly. They take 2,400 to the face. And then you can proceed to attack all of their face-up or face-down monsters. I don't see any problem with it. I mean, honestly, I think this is going to be that card that changes the way people duel indefinitely, just because, not indefinitely, but you know what I mean. Like, it's going to change the play style. Like, instead of us sending out this whole field, like, these guys are able to send out just one guy and go, by the way, let's see what happens, I mean, if you run into a Gores or something, like, let's say you run into a Gores. Okay, I know I'm not going to run into a Gores because I'm attacking him while he's got face-up monsters on the field or face-down monsters on the field, which means a Gores effect automatically can't activate. And they can't effect Veiler, my guy, just when he declares the attack, because it was by the effect of a monster in my graveyard. Effect Veiler will not kick targeting it. So, I mean, this is one of those things where, honestly, I like this card just because, one, the artwork's amazing. I mean, whoever did this, I forget who his name is, but he knew what he was doing. The archetype just in general speaks numbers. And then you have the effects, which just they intertwine so well. You just don't know what to say. Like, for example, if you summon a guy who has to be in the graveyard, you exceed with them, pitch it to the graveyard. Now you've met the requirements. You can continue to +1 off of this. I mean, I think I played them online for like 20 minutes one day, and I plussed like 17 or 18 times in one turn. And my brother was just like, wait, what? Like, my emotions were just like, they're so smooth with this deck, you don't have to worry. I mean, and it looks like they're just getting more and more support. So, I mean, as long as they continue to get more support, I'm going to continue to support them. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. That being said, that's the Yu-Gi-Oh card part of this. I then want to go into the series. The series, I'm not going to take too long on, but it basically, it doesn't hold up. I know, like, a lot of people are like fans of it, and then there's a lot who really hated it, and I think I'm one of the ones who didn't like it. I mean, it was fun when I was a kid to pass time because there were a lot of bright colors, and that kept my attention. But when you actually watch it, it doesn't make sense. For example, the first season of Duel Monsters with Yu-Gi-Oh and whatnot was basically, I mean, Pegasus's Island, obviously, but the fight scenes, they didn't show you how they got monsters on the field. Like, all of a sudden there's a Blue Eyes and a Dark Magician, and they've skipped 80% of the actual fight scene. And usually it's a quick montage using really, really cheap music. Which a lot of people didn't even realize Yu-Gi-Oh had music in it. Like, it has more music than MTV, surprisingly, but it does. It just goes through with a quick montage, and then the later seasons just became more and more repetitive of what happened. Taya gets caught. Yugi and Joey and them have to save her. Kaiba's brother Mokuba gets caught. Kaiba has to save him again. Like, it's pretty repetitive, and then eventually those characters do show their own, and they end up doing stuff in it, but honestly they're very useless in it. I mean, even Serenity is less the blind chick, the girl who literally cannot see for 80% of the actual show. She was more useful than Taya. The one time Taya gets challenged is by May, and she ends up winning. But Serenity has to fight her way through an island. I mean, I know Taya did too, but Taya, there's like moments when like she should just challenge the person, and be like, "Oh, I challenge you to a duel," and then they'll leave because that's how it is in that world. But she doesn't. Serenity, when something happens, she does challenge them, and she does win with her own deck, which she built, and she says, "Oh, my brother Joey built it with me," and it's like, oh, well, okay, that's kind of quick pace, but at least you're useful, like. So I mean, it didn't hold up very well. And as for the movie, no, it didn't work, guys. Honestly, it was a horrible film in general. I mean, it was banking on the hope that people will, I don't know how to put it better than this, but hoping that people would think of the TV show and come watch the movie. It didn't explain well what Yu-Gi-Oh was. And when you do a movie, no matter what the movie is, you should always start off with some type of, synopsis saying, "Hey, this is what happens. This is what the world's like. This is how it's going to be, and we want you to understand." Like, you jump into it and like if you're an adult just going to go see it, you're probably sitting there going, why aren't there any parents around? Like, who let these kids decide what, like, they skip school, I believe, in one scene, and it's like, wait, what? Shouldn't their parents be like that? And then, like, later on, you find out that Yugi is, his grandfather owns a card shop, but it's like, they don't even, like, in the TV show, they explained it very well. They explain that his grandfather owns a card shop. They go there every day after school. But in the movie, it's just kind of like all of a sudden they're at a card shop, and you kind of have to like pick up on that. Like, he's like, I don't think he says grandpa until like the third or fourth scene in. So it's like you would just think that this is some old guy who this character enjoys the company of, and then he's like, "Hey, grandpa," and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's Yugi," and then you're like, "Oh, okay, so he's his grandpa, and they're at a card shop because the parents like cards, I guess." And then you find out like it pans out and it's like it's like Moto card shop or something like that. And yeah, okay, it kind of explains it in that, but not very well. And it doesn't. And I think that as a movie, it fails just for that. But then once again, the fight scene doesn't make sense. They almost made Kaiba seem like a villain, but Kaiba stopped being a villain after the first season, so now you're just reiterating what happened to the first season. I mean, he still wants to beat Yugi, but he doesn't do bad things to beat Yugi. Like in the first episode, he rips a Blue Eyes White Dragon, which is the ultimate card in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's not, but yeah, and they get all fed up with it, but it doesn't. It almost like goes back in time. I think if they had said this is before Pegasus's Island, that would have made sense. But because they didn't, it didn't make sense, and it doesn't make sense. And I think that's the main thing is if a movie does not make sense, it's not a good movie. So, I'm sorry, you guys. I don't like the TV series. I do not like the movie. But I love the card game. If there's something that you have to take from this is do not judge a game based on its franchise. Do not be like, okay, like for example, I love Vanguard is my favorite non-mainstream. It's starting to become a mainstream card game, but as of right now it's not mainstream, and it is my favorite one. But I mean, that's kind of a bad example because Card Fight has an amazing storyline for the TV show too. So I mean, check it out, you guys. I hope you enjoyed. Jack Trade out.